In this video, I'm going to talk about the steps I take to pick myself up after I found myself in a difficult and challenging place. Um, Sometimes the hardest part of it is just feeling like there's not a sense of control or agency in my life. So when I feel that things are unfair, for example, the first thing I do is bring myself self-love. Just bring myself deep compassion and listen to myself as if I were um, a friend that I care very, very deeply for, that I wouldn't want to rush them in their story and sharing with me the challenges they're having and whatever it is that they're feeling. And the most important part of this is to actually write it out in a journal or to speak it out loud, but not to do it in our heads, but to really see it outside of ourselves and just let it unfiltered, completely let it have it out and just really see and witness, what it is that we're moving through in our lives. And this can be, for some people, um, a step that they skip and they go directly to the next, two steps I'm going to share with you and make lemonade out of lemons. They're really good lemonade makers, but actually sitting with the sourness of the lemon is really important to help our bodies digest what it's been through. And so taking, really all the time we need to be with ourselves in an unrushed way, in a way where we're not trying to change ourselves, but really trying to listen very, very deeply with quite a lot of compassion, kindness, and tenderness is really important. And it's a critical first step. Now, after we've done this, it's important we don't stay there because just sitting there being sour with the lemons is a very disempowering place, and it can make us feel just completely helpless and lost. And so from there, we actually take a shift. Once we feel, okay, we feel totally seen, the part of us that is innocent was innocent in the whole situation. We really felt like we did our best, and yet it still turned out in this particular way that we don't like and we may have to pay for. Um, when that feels like it's ready, then we take a look at the situation. We sort of zoom out a bit. And in that zooming out, it actually shifts our brains from the fight flight response in our amygdala to the prefrontal cortex, which is the logical and analytical center. And we sort of turn the situation around in our hands as if it's like different facets of a diamond. So we can look at from a different perspective. Maybe we look, in this really awkward angle to see what else is here. How could this be serving me in some way? That's really important. Growing me in an aspect of my leadership that really needs, a little bit of exercise right now. Especially if it's a pattern that we've seen over and over again in our life, then usually it's something that's there to support us in growing in a way that's really critical to our development. So that is, just trying to find a perspective that we can be with that's more empowering, that actually, brings more juice and energy back into our life again, where we can stand on and say, okay, well, this is what I'm going to use this situation for, and it alchemizes the situation. So whereas it could have just stayed as some very negative experience in our life, it can turn into a turning point. So that's step two. Step three is to actually take the time also to lift any blame, any shame, any judgment from ourselves, anyone that was involved in the situation, to just gently lift that, cloud of blame, because blame actually creates a lot of distortion. It makes it really hard to see what's actually there and the possible pathways forward. And so even if we just are able to do it for a little while, you can even set a timer and say, okay, for 15 minutes, I'm going to lift this blame cloud so I can see clearly what's here. Again, we're from the zoomed out place and we can access our, more strategic and logical part of ourselves. And then we can see what systems are at play. What, if there were people involved who were taking action that felt hurtful, was it coming from, you know, what they truly felt or believed, or was it a role they felt they had to play in the organization? Um, were they unconsciously playing out old habits and behaviors? Were we doing that, unconsciously playing out old ways of being that don't actually really serve us? Mm. Are there any archetypes that we're playing out in this situation? Sort of the hero archetype that's always um, feeling the need to rescue or fix a situation, which, who doesn't want to be a hero, but actually it takes away the opportunity for others around us to learn and develop as well. Those are some questions that you can ask yourself when you're zoomed out and think about the other people who are involved and the pressures that they might be under. You can ask yourself, do people here actually have the capacity to meet my expectations of them? And capacity also includes will. Sometimes you think, well, they could do it, but they don't want to. Well, not wanting to is also capacity. So there's just, a few questions here for um, us to examine more deeply. And when we do that, we can actually find new pathways forward, new routes that, we might not have seen before. And sometimes they can be quite drastic routes, such as deciding we want to exit the system, find maybe a new team to work with or a new job entirely, or create something of our own and give that a go. These are the practices that I use to meet myself when I'm in a challenging situation that both acknowledges the truth of my emotions, but also brings me back to my power.